Hi, I'm Mary Wing Soares, and this is another episode of It's Your Choice. We do this every political season, and we are only about a month away from, less than a month away from Election Day here in Londonderry, March 10th. We'll invite you, all 8,000 of you that came out to vote in the primary, to come and vote in our local election, which is just, if not more important. Today with me, I have two of our four town council candidates. Ted Combs is a sitting candidate, or sitting town councilor right now, and Deb Paul is a member of our, an outstanding member of our community, owner of the Londonderry Times, and both are running again for the two seats that are open for town council. So to begin the show, I'd like to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves, although it's, as David Leonard would say, no introduction necessary, but there are new people in our town. We want everyone to get to know the two of you and have an opportunity to learn who you are and why you're running for town council. So Deb, I'm going to start with you, ladies first.
Oh, wait, thank you.
You're welcome.
And thanks for doing this. I think that this is great, that people get to see who we are. They don't always take the time to read or to reach out, which is important. So I've been a resident of Londonderry for 25 years. I moved up here from Revere, Massachusetts. This was to be my forever home. And I started the newspaper, and that made me have an understanding of government and how the town works. It took a long time to learn all of this stuff. It was not easy. The one thing that I am a big fan of is transparency and looking at things from every single perspective, and every voice is important, no matter how crazy the question may be or the thought may be. It still should be put out there, because sometimes that crazy question turns into another thing, it turns into another thing, and next thing you know, we have a great new idea. And I just believe also in change, new fresh set of eyes, new perspectives. So that's kind of why I'm doing it. The other reason is I don't think that races should go unchallenged. There should always be, it shouldn't be just a given. It should be something that a candidate has to work for. And so I have last year I put my name in, and I put it in again this time. And I hope this will encourage other people that it doesn't matter. Just step up and put your name in.
Sure. Well, the challenge with stepping up and putting your name in is that if you win, you got to do the job.
This is true.
And I know you'd be capable and willing to do that job, but otherwise you wouldn't have put your name in.
No.
Okay. All set?
I guess so.
Okay. Ted?
Yes, I've lived in town almost about 25 years as well. Actually, I think even longer now. Grew up in town. Was in the high school marching band. I was in Boy Scouts. I was an Eagle Scout. Went on to college in Boston, then got my master's back here in Manchester at SNHU, and came back to town. Been working in construction management for a long time, for about 7 to 10 years now, and it's really built a good knowledge of financial management and construction management, which a lot of town council is about, is managing our buildings, managing our finances, and making sure that we're using materials and the right processes, that we don't have to go back and do repairs in the future, such as the senior center, where we're going with materials that we're not going to have to replace in the future. So instead of replacing with wood, we're using what's the word I'm looking for, the poly wood that's out there now with the decking that you see out there a lot, and it's not going to deteriorate over time, and it's not going to flake off with paint as easily. So trying to use materials that we're not going to have to keep on going back and spend more money over time is a good thing that we're trying to strive after.
That's great. That's good. When you say something like that, and I don't want this to seem as though I'm, attacking you, okay? But you are the only sitting town councilor here. When you say materials that last a long time, how often have we replaced the steps in front of the library?
That's a good question.
I mean,
I don't
I'm
think I've
saying-
seen
So I'm
in-
saying at least 3 times I've seen those steps covered, having to be replaced.
Mhm.
What's up with that?
So certainly with concrete can deteriorate over time, especially with salt usage. It can really damage concrete, and it will unfortunately cause it to have to be repaired. That's a certainly downside with concrete. Certainly, hopefully, we can look into in the future a better way to combat the snow. And I know that the state now has better requirements for what type of salt usage to use on roads and walkways, and we're striving to get the contractors around town to use a better management of the right kind of salt to use.
So I'm just thinking though of around town,
Mhm.
there's no other places that have that kind of an entranceway where we have steps up, like the town council, the town, hall doesn't, the police department doesn't, the fire department doesn't. That's the
Mhm.
only place in town. The schools don't, they don't have steps up into the front. So this is the only place in town we have that kind of,
Well, the
other
back,
than the Grange and
the back part of the town hall has like 1, 2, 3 steps plus the ramp.
right.
So they do
And-
have some steps.
Right, but they're not facing the weather. And I think they
Well,
are.
that's all cold back there. That's
Right,
even worse. That's
right.
ice.
So
no
I'm
melting.
just trying to say that, for example, the Grange has certainly got its challenges with its
Oh, yeah.
stairs, although they haven't had to be replaced. They've just deteriorated in that they're not flat any longer.
Right.
But the Grange, Lions Hall has wood steps, right? And that has lasted
Forever.
forever. So why, I guess, as a town councilor, would you all make a recommendation to replace something that you know is gonna deteriorate, and that's not even, that's just year to year. I mean,
Mhm.
I've seen those with, being replaced within 1 or 2 years, not 20 years or 40 years, where you
Right.
would think that it would last forever.
Certainly, it also depends on the contractor and how they were installed, and it's a lot of times staying on top of
And I
the
understand that,
contractors,
and I
making
know
sure they're
this is
doing a good
sounding like
job.
an attack. I know it is. I can hear it in my voice, and I can hear it in my head. But after the first time when it was replaced,
Mhm.
and then it had to be replaced a second time, why would we go with the same type of material, go with the same contract, go with any of those things?
That's a good question, and I can certainly find out about
I'd
that.
appreciate that.
To me,
But
that's the lack of conversation.
transparency, that's the
Mhm.
transparency that we're
No, I've been
talking
striving
about.
since I've been on the council to ask Steve Cotton, why are we doing these things? What is a better way of doing it? We don't want to keep on doing a project and paying double or 3 times for the same project.
One of the things that kind of, I'm going to coin Family Guy, grinds my gears, is, for example, Mr. Cotton will come up and say, we're spending X amount of money on this. And the council just says, okay, and they give him the money. And it just goes into place. And sometimes the project is already started. For example, the senior center. He asked for the money at the council meeting on Monday. That Wednesday, the contractor was there. There was, to me, those things should be brought up to the attention of the council. Hey, we're gonna have to be doing this, we're gonna have to put an RFP out, let's have a discussion about it, because after all, it is the taxpayers' money. There could be a contractor in the town that could turn around and say, you know what, I'd like to donate those. I'm doing a big job, and I'd like to donate. We don't know because we don't have those conversations, and I think that that should happen before we just sign off on an invoice. We should know what we're getting prior, personally.
So as a citizen, we are not privy to many of the things that the town councilor
Correct.
is privy to, and that is necessary. I mean, the
I'm
meetings
not
would be
denying it's-
hours and hours long if they brought every single thing. I'm just asking you, was that something that you were aware of was going to be happening, in your packet or however, and you were aware of, I think that's a conversation that Mrs. Deb is trying to have here. That why is it that they are able to come in and then on Monday and then on Wednesday it starts already? Why is that? And had already there been all of that transparency beforehand in that there was an RFP that was out that Mr. Cotton did, And we're not, I hope, trying to
No.
attack any
No,
person.
no, I'm not attacking any
Yeah.
person. I'm looking at strictly processes and procedures. And sometimes, there are things like I've gone to council meetings and had complaints or questions brought up that were planning issues.
Mm-hmm.
And the council would say to me, go to a planning board. Well, there is no public comment at planning board, so how can I go to a planning board and talk about a planning problem when I can't do that? The only time really you can speak is at a public meeting for a certain topic, and you can't go off topic, you gotta stay on topic. So, and that's my thing, and I just think that all of these questions should be done publicly, not privately, because then you get into the, well, he told me this, well, no, I didn't, and you can't prove anything because it was done behind a closed door as opposed to in public, and everything should be done, in my mind, mostly everything, out in the public, and very publicly.
Do you have a response?
Sure. So there's various different projects that are going on at any time of maintenance issues of, HVAC, carpeting, exteriors of buildings, roofings that are going on that, they need to be repaired over time. And if we were involved in every single one of those conversations before Steve Cotton went out to get bids for them, I think it would certainly delay a process for him to be able to just go out there, look at the site, see what needs to be done, and start contacting people. That way, he always provides us the bids before we actually sign off on them, and he provides 3 to 4 bids at the town council meetings when we have to sign off on them.
Well,
And
I was just gonna say that's yes and no. I agree with you and I disagree with you, because I've seen times, for example, the senior center roof, pretty much before the council even approved it, it was going, the Lions Hall floor is another one. Yes, it was emergency, but you can't say to what if the council said, no, we're not gonna pay for this right now, we're gonna need to wait. It's not a desperate emergency and we need to wait. What if they had done that? We already had people ripping up the floor before it was even approved. There's where I
that
have
floor,
issues.
I believe, was before my time, so I don't.
It wasn't that long ago, but I'm just saying, because of the paper, I see all of these things, and that was one example, and the senior roof was another example, and the thought is, why wasn't it all done at once? Wouldn't have that been more cost efficient? If you knew that there was painting and peeling on the front of the senior center, Mr. Cotton looking at it while they were putting the addition on, I mean, that was not that long ago when they put the addition on. They must have looked at the front and said, you know what, we should bundle this all together and do it all at once, as opposed to waiting to do it. That's a financially smart thing to do.
True, and the other side of the financial decision is that we only have so much money to spend within that fund for maintenance. So we have the expendable maintenance trust fund.
I
And we have
understand.
various projects that we have to do throughout the year that the voters approve money for.
I understand.
And if we did all of that all at once, it would have been quite a bit of a hit on that fund when we have other items that come out through.
But you also have your expendable fund balance, which you tend to use a lot. And the voters did vote to do the senior center, so you got most of it. The only piece missing was the front. So that could have been coming in at what did we come in at? What did Steve need for the front? 68,000?
Yes,
65,000?
About 60.
So that could have been added in and taken out of the expendable fund balance, and it might have been even less back then. Just saying.
Mhm.
It was not looked down, it was not questioned, it was not discussed. It was just, let's do it, let's do it. I think sometimes we rush and become more reactive as opposed to proactive and looking ahead at things. For example, I have been asking for 6 years for a water plan, and there is no water and there is no sewer plan in this town. And I will tell you this, in the next 10 to 20 years, pretty much all of central southern New Hampshire is gonna need to be on town or city water. That's pretty much where it's going. We have no plan. What did the town do? They gave away for free our water rights to Pennachuck. Pennachuck buys its water from Manchester Water at 10 cents on a gallon, and then they turn around and sell it to the residents for 80 cents. That could have been a profit we, as a town, could have been making. Now, it's not. We get a fraction of that 80 cents. So things like that, proactively looking at things, you know what, you have a plan. You may never use it. The school does it all the time. They look out 10, 20 years, and they say, this is what we're gonna need if things move this way. They have the plan. You hope you don't need the plan, but you have it so that you're prepared and it doesn't come as a shock.
I totally agree with you that deal with the Penachuk, that was certainly before my time, and I would not have.
It was in the
agreed to that.
last 5 years. I looked it up at Concord.
Okay, but that was never discussed when I was on the council.
That's my point.
So is this your, are you running for your second term or your third term?
Second term,
Your second term,
and it's a 3-year term.
Right.
So that was definitely before my time.
right. Well, you bring up some really good points. The questions that I would like to ask, the question that I would like, because you're talking about being proactive.
Yeah.
In the past year, we've seen a lot of derision between the school, not between the school, but on the town side towards the school board. And I know it's not you personally, but representing the town council, your chair has made some comments about the school and about how they've been managing the school side of the budget. And so how do you see yourselves working with the school in the future, as opposed to being, I mean, if you're talking about being proactive, we're talking about being positive, not being negative. And it
Correct.
seems to me as though the whole year has been a very negative year.
Beyond
So
that.
how do you see yourselves in the future bringing, some kind of balance to this whole equation?
It's having good open communication, and we've sometimes not had that with the current board. And we want to be able to have, good cordial relationships with them, and at least be able to sit down with them and at least have a conversation. And sometimes it's hard to even be able to set up a time to sit down.
So the board had agreed on a date, and they had presented that to the chair
Mhm.
at the meeting. They voted on it. They said, yes, this is when we'd want to meet. And then at the next meeting, the chair, your chair, town council chair, came up and said, well, wait a minute, we never agreed on that. And in fact, we had. Now, the meeting hasn't happened because it didn't happen. I mean, the school board was ready to come and meet, and then the town council
I
said,
believe there was a small meeting with 1 or 2 members from the council and 1 or 2
Right,
members from
there
the
were.
school board.
there was.
But that was certainly, it was, the only time that the members wanted to pick was during the daytime.
No, it
when-
was a February 18th evening, I think.
Mhm.
And it was a date that, it was a Monday even, the town council generally meets on Monday, so it was an in-between Monday
Yep.
meeting date. So I know I'm sounding like I'm attacking today, Ted, and I apologize, but the whole idea of being able to be positive and being able to talk to each other, now you will have, possibly have you'll definitely have a new
members.
school board member.
Mhm.
We may have new town council members. It's hard to say at this point. And so that will make a difference in the conversation,
Certainly.
okay? And I agree with you, open communication is key, but how does one foster that, I guess is what I want to say.
And I think we're trying to not make a division between us. It's being able to listen to new ideas, and sometimes we've gotten fight back from the school board to be able to listen to new ideas.
Okay?
Personally, again, I remember the day when we used to have joint meetings to try to find synergies and way to save money between the town and school. Matter of fact, they would have it at the high school band room, if you remember, and people would come and there were questions and the group would talk publicly back and forth and have discussions. I think that the school needs the town and the town needs the school. There's not one better or worse than the other. They both depend on each other, even though they have separate governments and separate wallets. I think that if you had a date.
Actually, we only have
I'm
the
sorry.
same wallet. We have
Well,
the same wallet.
well,
We have different folds of it, but
That's
it's
what
the
I'm-
same wallet.
different pockets, how's
Yeah.
that? Different pockets. It is all the taxpayer or revenues in, which I was schooled that there are different revenues, it doesn't matter, it's still money in. But my point being is we used to have those dialogues and those conversations, and personally, I remember what you're talking about, and if I had been on the town council, I'm not afraid to open my mouth. I would have said, we were supposed to do this, and I would have showed up. I would have, and I would have been at the next town council meeting going, how come we didn't do this? I would ask those questions. I am not going to stand down to anyone if I have a question. And the question should be done publicly so nobody can tell a lie or can backpedal or revise history.
Right.
So that's how I feel. That's the thing I bring to the table. Yeah, the council meetings might run a little longer. Oh, well, that's our job as a public service. If it has to
That's
stay
not
till
what
10
I'm
o'clock, well, they try to keep it under 10. And if we have to have like a whole lot of conversations about things coming up, then we stay there till 11. That's how I feel. I'm
We've
sorry.
had meetings past 10 o'clock, that's for sure.
Very rarely, and lately with the cutting people down to 5 minutes, and I know that's not you, Ted, that's a decision that the chair decided to implement through the town,
But see,
through
and
the state.
I wouldn't disagree with that at all, because if you can't say what you want to say within 5 minutes, then I think we find that a lot of people do tend to ramble and repeat themselves.
Agreed. If
So-
you can rein it in and it takes longer than 5 minutes, or there's more people there, then you really should take the time.
As long as you're staying on point and not repeating
That-
yourself.
I
that's-
agree.
you
I
know,
agree,
But I
but
think the whole idea is.
If
that
it takes till 11 o'clock to get
Yeah,
that
I don't
resolved,
have
it
a
should
problem
take till
with that
11
either. I
o'clock.
mean,
That's how I feel.
And then the other piece of it is it's hard managing 10 people's schedules to be able to meet on one particular day.
It doesn't have to be everybody. It could
And-
be 5 or 6 people, it could be 3 to 4 people.
well,
Sure.
there
starts
there
it.
was a whole idea of having a separate moderator. It would have been the town or the school moderator being, part of this meeting. And I do believe it will happen after the election, because you'll have 2 new boards, and whatever the composition of those boards might be, you'll have 2 new boards. And I don't believe that it wasn't because of the people that we had on the school or the town at that time. I was under the impression that it was going to happen, and then it didn't happen, and it was really frustrating.
I was under the same impression as well, that we were getting together at some point, and I believe it was discussed at certain times of getting together, not getting together, and then I know there was a small meeting that was held back in January. I was told it was a short meeting, so.
Was there a report in public about that meeting at the town council?
Let's see. I think it was just a short brief by the chairman saying that they had discussed a few items, but it wasn't much.
Okay. All right, well, what I would love to know from the two of you is how, well, I don't know. I mean, we've pretty much talked about the things that I wanted to bring up here. I know it must feel as though I've been attacking, and I apologize again, Ted, because it wasn't meant to be an attack. It was meant to be, let's look at what the town council has done this past year, what you want to do to bring some transparency or some openness to
Well,
this
certainly, and
council.
one of those biggest things is I always try to strive for, like you had said, Deb, we just approve what Steve Cotton brings up in front of
Yeah,
us.
you do.
No, every meeting I try to actually ask him questions.
I've never seen you, Ted. I'll be honest.
You've never seen me ask
I
questions?
watch those meetings every single night because I write about them.
Okay, well, I
And
ask
I'd like to
questions
put the
just about every
tapes
night.
up. I will say in the last 2 months, since it got close to election, look back for the last 2 years. You sit there very quietly and very rarely ask questions. And, Mary, if I may ask
Okay.
him a question, Ted, every counselor sets goals. They have a goal-setting thing after the election, shortly thereafter. What were your goals from last year, and what did you accomplish?
I don't think that actually happens.
So you don't do goals anymore. You have no goals set as a counselor.
We may have a general goal set from the general council, but not
Individual
personal
goals anymore?
No.
So what do you feel that you've done, what is your biggest thing that you've accomplished this year?
I think the biggest thing that we've accomplished
Not we, you.
me,
Yes.
okay.
As a counselor, you must have some sort of an initiative or agenda that you want to put forward to better the town as a free mind, free thinking individual.
Certainly.
There's
So-
something you must feel like you have accomplished.
So one of the things that I feel like, was a good thing that we accomplished was to support the financially struggling people in town that are of the elderly age and the disability, we've gone ahead and increased the asset limits and the reimbursement level for taxes. So if you're under a certain asset level and your home is at a certain level, you can have a certain reduction on your taxes. So we had a big increase this past year on real estate values in the town, and we had gotten some feedback from people that some people who were paying zero before now had to pay about, it was anywhere between $1,000 to $1,800 increase on their taxes. And for those individuals in town who are very cash strapped, living off of mostly, I would assume, Social Security or other small financial incomes, we didn't want to all of a sudden have them go from zero to a large sum in taxes. So we wanted to be able to actually bring that back to the level that they were at. So we didn't want to overburden the people who are already feeling very burdened in town.
And that came up from the assessing department, presented to the town council, and the town council should act on it because of the raise within the state?
No, we were
Levels?
actually looking into it because we had gotten word from a local citizen that because of the new levels of their
Assessing.
residents, of their assessing, and we decided to look into this upon, what can we do to actually remedy this situation, to actually make it better, because there's more than just that one person in town.
So Deb, the question that I wanted to ask you is, knowing that you have the paper, how do you see that you will be able to differentiate between what you are allowed to tell and what you know?
Well, to me, that's just called a work ethic. I have to do it all the time. People come and call me in confidentiality. It's off the record. It's off the record. It's off the record. That's all there is to it. And I've been doing that for 20 years.
Okay, so you
people have
don't-
said things to me in confidence. Deb, we don't want this to get out. We can't do this. And nobody has ever seen it in the paper. The paper has always, and I strive for it. Maybe sometimes I blur the line, but for the most part, it's just what goes on, what I have for facts. And if I'm incorrect, I will run a correction and I will justify it. I would try to keep it as just an education. Here's the information, do with it what you want. It's not up to the paper to make up people's minds. It's
Right.
up to the paper to inform people and let them make up their own minds.
So for, I would say, more than 10 years, I'm on the planning board, we've been talking about hooking up the people, the Century Village people, having that ability to have that access, because we would be hooking up the Shaw's Plaza and the workout club in order for them to be able to be more competitive with what's happening up at Woodmont. So this has been going on for 10 years, and finally it happened, it started last year or a year and a half ago that they were
Yep.
putting this in.
Sewer.
And then, as of September of last year, we found out that there was a problem with the water. It had nothing to do with the reason that they put that water pipe through, but that's the impression that the paper gave, that the town knew something was wrong, and so they put this in and kept the people
I have
unawares.
documents that I 91A'd and that the resident 91A'd that would indicate that there was dialogue between the council and Cooperstown, something like that, the engineering company that's working on the water issue. I am in conversation with them. We're gonna be doing another story because Mr. Smith and Mr. Farrell are having a meeting with the residents of that area and the engineer. That's then gonna be brought out, and then we're gonna have another story clarifying some stuff. The residents who contacted us felt that it would have been nice that when the town got that letter, had told them. They felt like if they had known in advance, and I know the town side is like, well, we don't want to tell them because we don't want to cause hysteria over nothing. And the residents felt they would have rather known up front so that they could feel that they trust someone, that there isn't anything bad going on. So it becomes that careful balance between this and that, and there will be another story after that meeting where more documents will be released. I do have the documents that show that there was communication with these people in advance.
Okay, well, I'll look forward to seeing that then in your next article.
Thank you.
All right, so did you want to say something?
One of the last things that I'd want to bring up is that, you brought up goals. One of the goals.
I'm sorry?
You had brought up goals.
Okay.
So one of the goals that I'd like to actually see, and the chairman and the town manager have actually kind of started doing this with the retirement communities in town, of going around and having small meetings, finding out questions that people have, seeing what they can answer, or coming back and getting their answers for them. I'd actually like to, have the different counselors go out either monthly or bi-monthly to different coffee shops, set up times and say, there's an open house, just like our congressmen and senators do.
Yeah.
There's an open house, come and ask questions. If we don't have them right now, we will get back to you. I think that would be a good way to be able to have us actually get out into the public more and actually, as you say, be more transparent. So, I think that's a big way that we can actually try and be on a more public scale with people. Because sometimes people don't always feel comfortable coming to the council, and they see us sitting slightly higher up on our chairs, and they feel slightly, intimidated, yes. And so I think, sitting down with a coffee with people at a table and, see what questions they have and see what we can answer for them or find out for them. I think, coming out into the public is a good way to help people.
Mary will remember, Coffee with the Counselor. It was
Right.
Mark Oswald. It was done years ago,
Right.
and I said it last year.
Tom Dolan does it now, even still. I've seen him in the past year having that.
And that was one of the things I had said last year.
Right.
The counselors need to be more events. They need to be more interacting with the public. I see them make an appearance and then I see them leave, and they don't really commingle. They kind of just stand in their corner. You really need to get out there and talk to people
Yeah.
at events.
Certainly.
It's sad that it's getting brought up now after years.
Well,
The school does a good job, by the way. I will say this. The school board members do show up at school sporting events.
Oh, yeah, they do.
If a adult graduation, like they're there to support their staff, which I don't see on the town side as often or as well.
I think we have more opportunity on the school side for that kind of thing to happen. On the town side, except for ball games, and that's not even
Well,
run by the
you
town.
have,
It's
you have
run by
Right,
Old
the
Home
and-
Day,
community.
concerts on the Commons, you have Art in Action.
Right.
You have a few of the other events that go on, like the Blues Festival for the veterans, the Memorial Day Parade. There are things.
They're there.
They're there.
They're
Yeah,
at
we're there
those.
for those things, yeah.
You're
Yeah.
there, and then they leave. I seldom see them.
Well, all right, so I just want to give you an opportunity to, face the camera and ask for somebody's vote, and maybe wrap up anything you think will help people make up their minds.
Deb, you can certainly go first.
Sure. I would ask you very humbly to vote for me, and a vote for me is a vote for change, a new face, a new perspective. The one thing I will tell you is I will always listen to everyone about everything, and I hope that people do, 8,000 of them, come out and vote. That would be amazing, because this is your wallet. The biggest bill you pay, your taxes, and you should be paying attention, and you should get involved and have a say in how that money is being spent.
Thank you.
Yep.
So come out and vote on March 10th.
Come out and vote on March 10th. I'm not used to this.
Ed?
Yes, thank you. I certainly look forward to everyone's vote on March 10th. I'd like to think that I've had, good, sound financial management with the town over the last 3 years that I've been here, and I always try to ask the questions when they're needed, and it's having the right steady mind to ask the questions when it's time, and having the right ones, and being out there for people when they need to. If I don't have the answer, I will certainly go and try and find the answer for you and get back to you. Certainly, I would love to see the 8,000 voters come out that came out on primary day. I think we usually see about 2,500 to 3,000 people. Sometimes we can get to 3,500 for a town election. That would be great to see. But our number one expenses come on the town side, not so much on the government side with the state. So a lot of your decisions get made on the town side. So please, everyone, come out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for being here.
And Mary, thank you for doing this.
Sure.
It's been a pleasure, and I think the town is gonna have a great loss
Oh,
with you moving,
Yeah.
and you're standing up for certain issues.
thank you.
I applaud you
appreciate
for that. Thank you.
So I wanted to point out that there are two other people that are running for town council, Ronald Dunn and Joe Green. Joe is a sitting town councilor right now. Neither of them were able to make it today, but we do want to wish both of them well in the election. Please come out and vote. It is so important that you have a voice in your community. March 10th, the polls are open from 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This has been Mary Wing Soares. Thank you both for coming. It's your choice.